I welcome everyone who is watching us online, thousands of people, as I was informed.
Okay.
And yes, and so this is the first meeting in our series, which is called Designing for the Future. We started Designing for the Future over, I think, 1 year ago, and it was one of the most popular events at Habit, where we discuss what's going to happen in a actually long term, and we choose different topics. So today's topic is future of manufacturing, and now I would like to welcome our two special guests that join us, which is Ken Wong, who
Hello.
is representing NKI Technologies, which is actually not only one, but few companies that are producing different products, and NKI has different locations in China, in Poland, and in Vietnam, producing different stuff for well-known brand as, I just mentioned a few of them. I have a Tesla in here, Clorox, BMW, Fellow, Procter & Gamble. So huge experience when it goes about manufacturing. So, and at the same time, the same mindset that we share at Wise Habit, but this is what we're going to discuss later on. And of course, Wojciech Bagiński. This is like really long bio.
You don't need to read that.
No, like it's
Please don't.
But I presented Ken from my personal perspective, and like I just want to say that I had a chance to listen Wojciech with Marcelina when we went to I think Gdynia Design Days. It was, I don't know, 2018 or something, and he was the inspiration to, like, I don't know, to start doing more in sustainability, as Marcelina did as well. So full of inspirations that we can get from Wojciech. Wojciech is a lawyer, partner at Impactiv.Law, board member of B-Lab and like loads of different.
Can I make your life easier? I'm
Yes,
here with
please.
my hat of a B-Lab Global Director. B-Lab Global is an organization that takes care of rolling out the B Corp certification movement. It's a kind of a movement of sustainable companies that are certified and which changed their statutes, their legal DNA to include purpose, profit, and sustainable practices.
Okay.
Is that easier?
You made my life much easier. Thank you very much. And me. I'm the founder and CEO of Wise Habit. I'm a lecturer at the university, but like I would like to also direct special thanks to Centrum Rozwoju Przemysłów Kreatywnych, which is Polish Creative Industry Development Center, who is our partner for this series. So thank you very much for the trust. And yes, and I will just give you the explanation how this discussion will go into. We have some questions to three of us because we want to present a different perspective. So the huge manufacturing perspective, local production perspective, and a commercialization of product, and sustainable and the law perspective that Wojciech will bring to this discussion. So I have some questions that we're going to go through, but one of the reasons why we are meeting here is also the report that was published by the Manufacturing Foundation from Milan that we want to discuss, and at the last point of our conversation I want to challenge what they put it into report, because mostly I disagree with all of that. So this will be the last part. So please forgive me, I will be reading the questions because they are in English and they are long. So before we explore the manufacturing of tomorrow, I just wanted to ask you, what does it mean, manufacturing of today?
Well, manufacturing of today is as low cost as possible, trying to do as many as possible in a most efficient way. There is no other consideration, I would say. It's just to make the product good and make it sell, and that's the only objective. So other than that, of course, is to survive the challenges that are upcoming since last year to this year, which is very different from the past.
What are the challenges?
The geopolitical challenges, the change in the supply chain, the change into how customer and consumer are seeing things differently, and most of all, consumers are more educated now. They are more careful in how they spend money. So it's not just whether you are making it cheap, but how are you making it more meaningful, I would say, yes. So manufacturers are now faced with more different area nowadays that we don't need to consider in the past.
But I also think that like companies like Temu, they are not doing good job to any of us. Like they don't do good for end user who is buying cheap and like really low quality product. They don't do good for brands which needs to like compete with the price actually only, and they do not do good for producers, because Temu is not only the competitor for, in my opinion, for brands, but it's also a competitor for producers as well.
Correct, yeah.
And Wojciech, your perspective?
So maybe before I present my layman view on manufacturing, which I don't know anything about, I will just say that there's this anecdote I think from one of the greatest physicists in the world, when he had to present some kind of a lecture that was outside of his scope. He said that to his wife that, hey, do I really need to dress up like this, in a tie and a suit, because usually I give my lectures in short sleeves, right? And she said, no, but this time you don't know what you're talking about. So that's why, hence my tie today and a jacket. So having said that, now my layman's view on this. Well, I don't know anything about manufacturing, but I know a lot about how to build companies and how to transition them to sustainable practices, and about where the world is heading in the sense of consumers, where the investors are heading, how the economy will most probably look like in 50 years or 100 years. And I'm quite certain that manufacturing, today's and tomorrow's manufacturing, it has to start changing in accordance with sustainability practices, because the world is heading that way. Even though we have some backlash in ESG, sustainability, in the States, well, a little bit in Europe also. I think that's just for a little while. We won't be able to escape these kind of problems that we have in today's world. The planet is too small for all of us, so I think we can't continue manufacturing goods as we did 100 years ago or 50 years ago, or even, I would say, most probably 30 years ago. So we need to change, and that needs to change. So for me, manufacturing of tomorrow is a kind of a sustainable manufacturing that will fulfill the puzzle of sustainability. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now I'll just get back to the point of sustainability, but before I'm going to do it, I just need to add something. Sorry, Ken, it will be in Polish. Ja mam takie powiedzenie, że czego nie wiesz, to wyglądasz.
That's why I wear a tie. Another thing is I'm a lawyer, so it would be a little bit, strange if I didn't have the tie, especially in Poland.
So, my perspective on production, it's a Polish perspective, as mentioned, and it mostly comes from the small factories. So I just put it some notes, before I started working with Ken, and before I had some experience with Asian and Chinese manufacturers, and what was really surprising for me was always that everything is doable. And this is the mindset and the attitude that I found in Asia, which I really appreciated. From the local perspective, it's like not maybe everything is doable, but like I still believe, and like not even believe, but I'm pretty sure that Poland is one of the best manufacturers, like in Europe, definitely. What I'm missing from the sustainable perspective, because there is loads of like producers in Poland that have already that approach of sustainability. But I think that generally speaking, and I just don't want to go into like specific producers, it's not the mindset that built that approach, it's just the fact that they just got the funds from European Union. And then my dream is to live like the perfect scenario is that we will build the mindset that will drive the change, not only the money, which were mentioned before, but I think we're gonna get back to the money and the price quite a lot during our conversation. Definitely what I'm missing, except of like European funds, is just the lack of investment, generally speaking, in sustainability in Poland. Maybe that's why we do not have that innovation when it goes about materials, and and this is my perspective.
Can I say something to that? I mean, we are in the middle actually of a sustainability crisis in Europe, because you have, I'm not sure how much you know about the law, but you have this omnibus package. That is, the European Union wants to back off from the track that it has set, regulating stuff and basically mandating sustainability practice. So if you look at it from a larger, like a helicopter view, what the EU started doing 10 years ago is regulating, but at the same time building a financial incentive system, which as we are speaking of today, is not in full swing, in full motion. So it's a kind of a funny and strange that EU is backing out a little bit or making steps, backwards, when the whole system is not yet in motion. So my view of this is this will continue for a little while, but there was too many incentives on the financial institutions, big banks, to transition since 2018. So we need to wait a little bit more, I would say 2, 3, 5 years maximum, for the whole financial system to start pouring a lot of resources into this.
Okay.
So
there's a hope.
Yeah, I hear from all the companies, hey, where are the money that EU has promised? I think it's too early yet. I think it's too early, but this will come in very short time, I think.
Is it like a sustainable solution supported somehow from the government in China?
I think from my limited exposure for Southeast Asia, China, US, EU, I think I would say this not because I'm a Chinese, but I would say this because I'm seeing that the Chinese government has changed a long way. Since 10 years ago, environmental concern to me was a joke, because the government would charge me for releasing carbon dioxide in the air. But the whole idea of them is not to protect, but the whole idea is for them to get some money from you, to allow you to do that. Up to recently, I start to feel that they are actually putting effort to reduce it. In a way, not only to fine you, but they actually try to assist you. But the government they would help, but they would not put all the money into helping you doing that. I think they kind of transiting from a negative way to more of a neutral way. I'm sure that it will get to some point where it's more positive, but I think companies and people need to adapt to the thought that we are trying to live in a sustainable world. And this is not a matter of whether you are doing or I am doing, but everybody needs to understand. It's just like when I start to return to China after I graduate in the US, the first thing that I feel very uncomfortable is people cutting in line in front of me. So What's wrong with you? Can you stay in line? but in China, I start to find out that if I don't cut, I never get there. So it's a matter of the world will change, people will change over time. I think education will change over time. So how do we actually make sustainable not as a task, but as a habit, as a wise habit, right? So how can we change that into establishing that into the people's mind? So government is doing that, but I think people are asking government to do too much and thinking that they can just sit there, right? But no, I'm sorry that it won't happen that way. Government can help you if you are trying to do that, but only if you are trying to do that.
I just don't want to, like, we are at the first question now.
I forgot to send you an SMS that we won't go through all your questions. That's almost certain.
But like, we're still at the first one. But like, I just want to mention that, like, do you remember Grinivo in Poland, maybe? There was an organization, like, started, I think, in 2015, that was doing a lot concern ecological. And I remember in 2017, Grinivo organized the meeting with Chinese people from Chinese government, and now TRE, the company that I ran before, was the only design company invited to that meeting. There was like a group of 20 people from China discussing innovation that it's related to ecological. And I was so surprised at that time that we were doing quite a lot in innovation in 2017. And that someone was interested, and there was a money to invest to bring that from Poland to China and implement. For most of the projects that I met at that meeting, the problem was that they do not exist anymore. So that's why I'm a bit less optimistic about when it goes about investment in sustainability or ecology.
That's why I was talking about the helicopter view. You know, each company has its own specifics, right? Yeah. But just talking and about these geopolitical stuff also, it's very interesting to see the shift also towards China. Like, if Europe is like lagging, let's say, or will be lagging in sustainability, I think China is ready to take a lot of that progress that has been made in China, in Europe. Sorry, just as an example, we are now talking in Europe about reducing the reporting obligations of biggest companies, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if you go to China, there's a reporting act, actually. Mm-hmm. So China will be imposing these obligations. Mm-hmm. There is an act being progressed in China regarding sustainability in supply chains, like due diligence in supply chains. So you're producing something, you have a supply chain, you should be, as a company, searching for some kind of environmental, human rights problems in your supply chain. EU is saying, well, we went too far, let's try to cut this. At the same time, I'm talking to my Chinese friends from Beijing, lawyers also, and they're saying, hey, we are here almost ready with our act. Mm-hmm. So if you don't enact it in Europe, we're going to be asking you all those questions and asking you about your supply chains also. So it's very interesting to see this shift from first US backing out, then Europe a little bit lagging, and now China taking slowly the lead in sustainability. So
wow.
Very interesting, I think.
Super. Yeah. Okay, I'm moving to the second question of Ferdi that we've got.
You forgot to send me the title of this, of our discussion, that's why.
So the next point is glocalization, and I'll just explain, or for those who aren't familiar with this one, is just combining global thinking and global production with a local way of thinking and local production. So this is actually what Ken is doing, and Wise Habit is fully supporting that. And then Ken, maybe you can tell me what was the idea to actually open the manufactory locally in Poland.
Okay. I come to interact with Poland many years ago because of Thomas being our staff working in China. coming from Poland. So I've heard about a lot of
Small
things.
country somewhere in
A
far,
lot of
far
things
away.
regarding, well, yes, but until to a point when the political situation start to get sensitive, I think around COVID time, then I was talking to Thomas. I said, well, Thomas, there are opportunities. Maybe we should go out. And back then, U.S. was actually our key market and only market. And most of the obvious choice is actually go to U.S. and see what we can do. But instead, I'm looking at the whole thing and said, okay, if I'm growing my business, yes, but I think it is time that we should explore Europe and see what we can do there. So we started off by exploring as being selling products in Europe. To a certain point that I think that, I think it is better to manufacture products over in Europe. And a lot of friends are asking me, why not Southeast Asia? Europe is going to be expensive. I said, yes, it's going to be expensive, but I think when time comes, when AI kicks in, when automation kicks in, it doesn't matter where you produce it, the cost is going to be the same running the machine wherever it is. So if I am going to be in European market, I shall be producing in European market. Plus, the technology is there. There's a lot of universities in Poland, and it's English speaking friendly, even though you don't always speak everything in English. But it's rather a friendly environment, and I feel that the Polish, generally in Polish people are quite friendly, I would say. So it was a step to just. I don't know the move is the best move, but I know that it will not be wrong. So we just need to figure out a way. It's just like sustainability. Is this the amount of money that is correct to put in that? We don't know. But if we don't start somewhere, you will never know.
I remember when I met Tomek, actually, when we were working on a project, we had that discussion that, okay, we will produce the first batch of the products that we developed and we wanted to order in China, but then I was like, but the next one needs to be done in Poland. I don't know if you remember that. And this was before actually the Mysłowice factory was open. And like my goal, like not even a goal, like reasoning for that was Trump was already a president at that time, which was bringing a huge risk of the taxes that might grow, which is happening now. Second of all, the cost of transport that were growing, and they keep on growing, I think, and we don't know where it's gonna stop. So, like working together and just just making localization concept here in Poland, in my opinion, is just delivering safety to our customers. Because in this way, we are not kind of, how to say it, like we shouldn't be afraid that much of the geopolitical situation, because we are producing locally and we have much easier situation this way. This is what I believe in. Mm-hmm. And of course, this also means reducing CO2 by 30%, thanks to the local production and not generating pollution, I would say. So there is only one planet. Yes, so I'm moving to another question, but like I just, if any of you guys have any kind of thoughts about what we are discussing, you're more than welcome to, just give us the feedback. In the Manufacturing Foundation report highlights the need for adaptive manufacturing system is pointed. And I really like the word adaptive manufacturing system, and we were just discussing that, what does it mean, or how it can reflect on sustainability. On sustainability, generally speaking. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I would say that we will start in overall with how everybody see manufacturing. When I talk about automation, the first reaction is like, oh, but you need a high quantity to run automation. Well, my reaction to that is, well, that is only because it is not automated enough. If it's automated enough, then you don't need that high volume to run automation. And when that happens, you also save a lot of waste because you are not now, if you produce 1 million, but you sell only half of it, then yes, you still make money, but you are generating another 500,000 of junk. And then you need to give it to Temu to sell it at a very low cost, and it kills a lot of other people at the same time. So I think in overall, the way to do business, the way to approach, and at the same time, it is more challenging when you're trying to do that. But I think we are human beings, the intelligence on Earth, right? So when we know what is right, we should have a way, we should find a way, rather than let's see how other people do and we'll just sit around, right? So somebody needs to do something that is being seen stupid. So, but I think in the bottom of the heart, we all know that what is right versus what is not right.
I'm not pretty sure about it, but okay.
Follow your heart, right?
Like I was thinking because we communicate adaptive design at Wise Habit. Like most of the products that this is adaptive design, like our modular system. So from one piece you can create endless combination when it goes about the product. So from when I was thinking about how adaptive manufacturing system can have impact and change the world to be more sustainable, I was thinking, I just wrote it down, unification, which is in my perspective important. And so we should build the manufacturers that are able to adapt really quickly. This is what we discussed before. So meaning sometimes it's not a problem of the factory, because I saw in Poland many factories which are very sustainable, which are very optimized when it goes about tools and like IoT, AI, just like and all that stuff that relates with digitalization and modern and future way of production. But the problem was that, and it is, that the production site is not fully packed with orders. That means that the factory is standing doing nothing, wasting money, wasting time. And if we were able to design manufacturers that are easy to adapt to different kind of products and needs that comes from the customer, I think that this will be more sustainable, definitely. And the other thing, what I was thinking is just the way how we design products. It's not only from the perspective of how it looks like, but the engineering and everything and the components. I think there should be, all the products should be designed in a way that everything is repeatable. So for many different products, we can use the same components. So we are working it out once, not each time for every product specifically, so it will make the production cost much cheaper. And I believe that personalization should be a luxury, not sustainability. So if you want to have something very unique, pay more, and that's it. So this is my way of thinking.
Well, I would say that from as a manufacturer, I interact with lots of customers, and standardization, modularization has always been words that I have learned from school but never put into practice. Maybe automotive has done that, but household appliances, 3C products, nobody does that. Until I start to see one of my first customer, Rock Robo, they're doing robot vacuum cleaner, and they start to do the standardization. And I was thinking, wow, okay, finally somebody is putting that into action. So they are not actually benefiting from that, because standardizing a lot of things in the beginning actually costs more. So it takes them also patience to start harvesting, probably 2 years ago, when they have built enough standardized modules, standard parts. Now it becomes like whatever model you're building, they are just putting things together quickly. And the competitors start to say, wow, okay, we thought that it is only on paper that they are doing, but they are actually now much further ahead. So now competition's trying to come in to catch up. Now it becomes more difficult to catch up because they are already behind for so much. So while sustainability is something that we know what to do, adaptive design is something that we know what to do, you have to be in the water to understand how cold or how warm the water is. Then you know what to do. If you don't do that, then I would say that it's not just sustainability. You will lose the advantage of what other people are willing to try and understand. So I think that in that direction is pretty good.
All right. I just need to figure out a question for Wojciech.
So can I ask a question then? Do you share her also worry that you will build up a factory or something and there won't be customers for the goods that you're manufacturing, like in a sustainable way? Is that the right summary of how I understood your worry?
I think that more. Okay, I think that those are 2 points. Like one, like a business perspective. I don't know if it's the same saying in English, but like I'm the person who always eats with a huge spoon. I learned to eat it with a small now. So I think that like building any kind of manufacturing site or anything should start from the needs that comes from the customer and should grow when the needs are growing. But I also have examples that come from Śląsk, especially when it goes about porcelain factories, that they actually changed. There was Krzysztof, Fabryka Manufacturing of Porcelain, and chyba Krystyna, I don't remember the names, but something like that. And they all suffered because of the fact that they invested loads of money in transforming the business so they can deliver products for IKEA. And from one day to another, they lost the orders and they got bankrupt. They had to actually close the factories. So like being adaptive and just being, just like looking what's going on the market. You can't rely on one customer or you can't rely on one type of product because from one day to another you can be in a real big trouble. So what I'm just saying is just while designing manufacturers, we should try to design them in a way that we can adapt to the needs. I don't have a solution how to do it because I'm not a designer of manufacturers, but like in a general concept, I think that this might be a direction.
I think it is always easy to copy and paste. So, but if I look at what Marcelina is doing and I try to copy and paste, I can probably do maybe 70%, 80% of what she's doing. But the question is that I can replace her if she doesn't progress.
Oh, come on, you can't.
If you don't progress, So it's not a question of who come to take over what you are doing. It's a question of are you progressing? So it's almost like, are you doing better at sustainability? Are you doing better at modularization? What are you doing, changing, improving, disregarding whether there's competition copying or not? I think that is what makes us different from animals, right? We are always progressing. We are always thinking. So it's a matter of what can I do? What can I learn from your progress so that I don't make the same mistake? While you do your progress, you make mistake, and I will learn from that, and I'll make my progress, and that is how we have a positive, a closed loop to go around and around, rather than can I do your job and take it over. I think yeah, a lot of people would choose that way, but I don't think it's a sustainable model over time. Because you can replace someone else, and then yes, somebody will replace you. And what would you do? So you need to progress. You need to think of what is the next thing.
Before we had this is the question to you, Wojciech, and then before we had that conversation about should like European Union or any country put the taxes just to protect their own market. We had that discussion about why there are taxes, like extra taxes on electrical cars that comes from China. My statement was like, because French force us to do so. But like, the question is, do you actually believe that extra taxes can somehow put positive impact on changes or on sustainability, and how do we need legal restriction just to follow the path of sustainability? Is it helps or not?
Do you have like 3 hours or 4 to answer this complex question? Okay. Yeah, it's because it's tough to answer this. I mean, I don't think tariffs and taxes will work. That's number one. But I see a kind of a logic in trying to protect, the market that the current or whatever government in Europe is actually leading, so or in the U.S. So I would say, it's a complex multi-stakeholder game, I would say. So if one country, be it U.S., China, or whatever, is able to produce something cheaper and then sell it to the whole world cheaper than the other markets, then it may create a situation where the consumers will be happy, of course, but with that comes a lot of stakeholders, workers, the whole economies, the local economies that rely on the production of the good, in this instance, cars. Like, let's take Germany or France, right? They're reliant on that industry. So I get it that they're trying to protect their competitive advantage, but I think it's only, again, it's from a big helicopter view, it's just a short while this will be happening, because I strongly believe that price competition won't be the name of the game in the future. I think when I'm looking at the whole system and how it progressed for the last 125 years, because this is the main growth of the current economy, it's almost evident when you look at it that there is the next stage of doing business. And why I believe so is that around 20 years ago, I think people started to realize that price is one thing, growth has a certain limit, you can't grow forever, and then comes where you're competing at and with. Or what is your competitive advantage? And I think these companies, and I may be living in a bubble because I come from the B Corp world. We have 10,000 companies.
We are in the bubble right now in here.
Yes, I'm looking at all these companies and looking how they are doing their business. And all of them, I think all of them, are basically saying that, hey, we are not here to make cost efficiencies, cut workers, whatever. We are here to propose something more. Like propose some kind of an impact that our product, our service, our company is giving to the world. And what is interesting is that they can demand a higher price margin for the products or services, and at the same time they are able to show by evidence that they are actually creating this positive impact. So when you are from this bubble that I am living in, you see a kind of a competition between the B Corps, not over price, but over who makes the bigger impact at the end of the day. So it's a kind of an interesting dynamic. And I forgot the rest of your question.
I would get, because this was my question, so I can't read it. But I think we should follow your thoughts, because we had that very interesting discussion. Because I was the one, for a change, being pessimistic and saying that, yeah, right, price. Yeah, right, price. Because what we are doing, definitely, like what I was doing all the time, like working with different products, services, whatever, it's just building something which is truth, which is always the most valuable, then building the products through added value each time. And it appears that it's not enough, that still price is something very important. That's why we decided to just make the products more democratic, like produce them in here just to lower the price, and all different things that I think I just mentioned before. But like Ken, when we had that discussion, he told me that there is a different way to convince people who are not convinced, just to give them the time to learn. And the capsule example, which is...
by making appliances, one of the appliances that I make is actually coffee maker. And coffee maker, everybody knows as capsule coffee maker, which a lot of us don't think capsule coffee is actually coffee. And then along the way, there's also contamination, all this garbage that's being thrown out. But nobody can beat the convenience of having a capsule coffee maker when you need that convenience. It just happened. So the story goes that a friend of mine who has been researching in material for a long time has made a material that is completely from plant-based. That TÜV has already certified that it is actually safe to discard in ocean. So when I heard about it the first time, I said, really? There's such certifications? Are you sure? The fish will like it? But anyway, so it becomes very interesting for me, and so I actually visited his company. I said that you are the first Hong Kong person that actually do R&D. So I look at the whole thing. The first thing that come to my mind is actually I said, well, have you considered doing this as capsule? Because he was actually using the material to put as like a food tray, where you have your meal and airline when you fly. The tray is either in plastic or they are in tin or aluminum. And now that they are starting to serve that in this plant-based material, they can actually throw the whole thing away instead of they don't need to actually wash it or they don't need to contaminate. So I said, can you do capsules? And then he was looking at me, well, yeah, we can do capsule, we can try. But we are not going to be as cheap as all these other capsules. Can you afford that? So I said, well, I don't know, but I'm sure that there are people who can afford that, but we don't know. So let's work on it while I think of what it is. So like you said, it's always the first thing when you're running a business. Every day we look at the whole thing is, can I make money by doing this? Or am I just trying to make it more sustainable? So I'm looking at the whole capsule and saying, well, it's more expensive. How can I actually make this work? And number one is the material actually makes the coffee taste better. Well, because there's less contamination to the coffee. And then the second thing, 2 weeks later, I actually go back to my friend and said that what I would try to do is I would try to sell this shell to local coffee roaster. Because for those of us who would like nice coffee, don't have the time to mess with all this pour over, all these other processes. If coffee roaster can tell you that I can make you this capsule with the coffee grounds that you like, and this is safe to discard in your backyard, are you willing to pay for that convenience? Why not, right? And there's more to that is the coffee roaster can also make more money, and now the whole thing, I think that, well, the whole thing may work. So that is why I talk with Marcelina. Well, let's see what we can do to make this work, because now people who are involved in this can actually make money differently, and while making it a chance to educate the people who comes into contact. And they will try to help us to educate because they will help to make more money as well. Yeah. So that is how I always think that it is always the best way is to learn while you have fun. So the best way is to educate while people can actually gain benefit from it.
Yeah, but like, you know, you can always convince business through showing them that they can earn more. And if they're not convinced to sustainable solutions, then maybe let's start with giving them opportunity to earn more, and then they will maybe change their mind after, like mindset after a while. So this, yeah. I just love the story, like just changing the way of thinking, not only trying to sell through sustainability concepts and you know, but like through telling them, okay, if you don't mind about the planet, just earn on that, and then maybe you're gonna change your mind. And this is a good approach, I think.
Mm-hmm. And now I remembered your second part of your question, I think.
Perfect, thank you.
It's late today already, so. Yeah, because you just said about, how you can convince business on price, but the other part is regulations, right? You can convince people or try to convince people by regulating and telling them, mandating certain things, So that's a kind of an approach that EU took 10 years ago, noticing that these kind of voluntary activities by the companies or voluntary actions is just not enough. And actually, the organization that I'm a board member of, this B-Lab Global, well, we've been on the market since 2006, established in Philadelphia, and quickly grew from a small NGO of around 10 US companies to 2015, I think we had around 2,000. So even noticing that we had some kind of progress, interesting companies joined our ranks, and we always had these kind of a label that B-Lab is a kind of on the avant-garde of sustainability. Like our standards were really very hard to achieve by companies. Like we had Patagonia as one of the companies there. Like Patagonia is still a B Corp. That's actually another anecdote with Patagonia, because when they joined...
Like it's surprising that you're saying still.
Yes, still there's a lot of problems, and a lot of companies are also changing or doing different things.
Okay.
It's not that B-Lab and the certificate is the only certificate on the market, but yeah, Patagonia with all the problems.
Let's stick to that it is.
Yeah. but the interesting story around Patagonia was that since inception they were like really considered in the U.S. market to be the kind of a leader in sustainability practices and everything. And when they came to B-Lab to certify as a B Corp, they thought that they will receive like 200 points out of 200. And they received like around 100 something, and they were really quite shocked and like complaining, like, hey, how is that, your standards are too high for any company. Of course they are too high, like they're constructed in a way that you cannot achieve 200 points. They're, I think, now at 140 or something like that out of 200. But yeah, going
but
back
still,
to...
I think they're one of the highest scores that...
Yeah, they're really high, really high. So going back to the story, so, over the years we've been like telling companies, hey, you can combine purpose with profit, solving all the social problems, you can make money on that, you're in a cool crowd, everybody loves B Corps, all that stuff. But still, what is 2015, what is 2,000 companies out of all the companies in the world? It's like nothing, zero. So when the EU came in, and there were already examples of B Corps also in Europe. The market started, I think in China already started. I think in China there's around like 30 B Corps right now. But anyways, like they came to us also, and we came to the regulators in Europe trying to say, hey, we are these kind of companies that actually are living by what you are trying to regulate. So, we're maybe a bit cannibalizing ourselves by telling you that maybe you should regulate all that instead of us telling people voluntarily, try to do it, right, and giving certificates. So they used a bit us as an example. And to make the story shorter, COVID times came, and we saw tremendous growth of interest in B Corps, like you cannot even imagine. Like when we looked at the press and did some studies on how many times in the main journals in the United States, but also all over the world, how many times journalists mentioned the concept of stakeholder governance. In comparison to shareholder primacy, stakeholder governance, you need to manage your company with a thought, taking, all the stakeholders around into perspective and trying to figure out and balance all these interests. So around before 2015, there was around 300 times per year in main journals. And then COVID times came, and suddenly there was like an increase of 2,000 per year of the mentions in that. And companies, we quickly grew up to today to 10,000 companies. So in a short period of time, 6 years basically, tremendous growth. And we continued to say what we've been saying to the EU, that you know, we're growing, of course, but still 10,000 is nothing. And still, we believe that there needs to be a regulatory push in order for this sustainability to happen. Otherwise, if people don't feel that there is obligation and some kind of accountability mechanism, I think we were going to go back in circles. So from one perspective, I feel that there needs to be this push, and this is maybe unpopular also to hear from a lawyer, but at the same time, regulations may create a lot of bad incentives also, because it's just very complex to regulate such a thing as sustainability. It's just very, very complex. So what I'm trying to say is there needs to be a mixture, I think.
Definitely, but I think that it always, it helps when it starts with regulations. I remember when in Poland we just forced everyone to segregate garbage. And the discussion was like terrible. Like everyone was complaining why we should do that, and you know, and now it's normal. So I think that sometimes law is just, you know, forcing us to do the good change. But like the other question that I wanted to ask, why do you think that there is only 10,000? Is it too difficult to become B Corp, and is sustainability that difficult to bring to the company? Are we lazy, or we do not see too much added value to do so?
Another hard question and a complex.
Thank you.
And a complex one. I won't accept any other invitations, I think. So there's many elements in this. I think it's part that the standards that we have are quite high. So it's very hard for the company to become a B Corp. For instance, in the Polish market, we started with certifying a publicly listed company, while all the rest of the world was certifying smaller and medium-sized companies. We started with a listed company on the stock exchange. It took them 3 years to rearrange their businesses, you know, apply to the model, like really hard. For smaller companies, of course, the process is faster, but still demanding a lot of thought outside of the normal, you know, business as usual stuff. And that may be a problem. And from the other perspective, it's a kind of a decision from B Lab to make the standards very high. And we are actually changing the standards as we speak, and they will be, I would say, even more stringent than they are right now.
So we should it's a kind send of
it's a kind of a decision, because you know you want to have how a lot of thinking was done around this is, you know, at this stage. I think that's my personal view. I think it's better to have like a few avant-garde companies that show that you can do this with the biggest ones. You know, they're the 100% examples, rather than have, you know, hundreds of thousands of companies where the purpose is maybe lost sometimes, you know. So I think that's the way. But of course, I would love to have, you know, millions of companies certified as B Corps, because that would really prove that we changed the system at the end of the day. Because if we have more sustainability confirmed companies than the usual ones,
we'll need to follow.
You know, that's going to be when we're going to be out of business, and that's good. That's where we're heading.
Okay, guys, I think that I'm still in the middle of the questions, like in half of it. So I'll just move to what I wanted to challenge. Basically, sorry, I'm just like I thought I was sure I should take my iPad instead of printing it, which is so not sustainable.
Maybe we have some questions from the audience, right?
Do we have till now? Do we have any questions?
I may have one, actually.
Yeah, sorry, people.
Yeah, I may have one question regarding ESG. Because actually it is supposed to be about the full scope of business, right? Trying to avoid the waste in any part of company activity that there is. And when we actually attended training, it was the first period of time when actually it was brought to public attention that ESG is going to be an important part of sustainable business. So we were actually taught how to avoid penalties, or what the penalties would be, right? Instead of what the benefits of that process and participation in ESG would be. So actually in China, I see different approach towards the environment, the sustainability. It's actually encouraging through benefits instead of through penalties. While we in Europe have actually totally different approach. And here's my question: why?
Oh my God.
I
Now
think, you're recording this, right? Okay, I'm going to have a hard time. I'm certainly not accepting any other. So yeah, I think it's a kind of a partly to blame the lawyers in this. So if you're having trainings done by lawyers, they feel they need to tell you, what will happen to you if you don't comply. So that's one thing. I think the EU actually was trying to do a good job in trying to study the benefits of transitioning the economy. So when you look at the first study that was out there, I think 2018-19, something like that, they started with it. Like they tried to provide a reasoning behind these regulations, and it was highly contested. Like when they published it, I think it was done by a consortium of consulting companies. It was in the European Parliament, there was a huge fight. Like a lot of people, the ESG haters, they were saying, hey, this is the consulting business trying to make, money out of that in the future. But actually they did a quite good job of trying to collect, many views from different perspectives and try to show the immediate and long-term economic benefits to this. But it's also an interesting thought that I have after your question, and I try to sometimes talk about it in these kind of lectures or kind of training for companies. So if you look at the reporting regime, which is very criticized right now in Europe because they created a whole new system of reporting, even that would be an overstatement, but equally complex as the financial reporting system. So just as for people that don't know about it too much, in order for you to report on your sustainability, you need to start with a double materiality assessment. So you need to collect and look at the whole picture of your company and the ecosystem and try to figure out how these sustainability risks like human rights, climate change, all that stuff, how it impacts your financials of your company, but also how it impacts not only the financials, but internal culture, like different many things. And on top of that, what your company is doing, what is the impact of that on the outside world? So it's quite complex, quite hard to do. And many companies that I talk to, they are complaining like crazy. Like, how can you do this? There's so many reporting points. And they totally miss one very important part of the kind of a reporting regime. They don't tell you that you only have to report about risks, but they tell you about reporting opportunities related to sustainability. So if you take a look at the whole ecosystem and you think about your company and see that there's climate change, that will affect your operations in the future. And the requirement is that in the report, you already should start thinking how this will drive innovation in your company. Because maybe you should already start choosing, and maybe there are like millions of opportunities out there. So I tell everybody that, hey, this double materiality assessment is a kind of the best management tool that you could ever have. Because suddenly you lose this kind of really narrow view of financials, and suddenly you start looking for opportunity related to the transition of the whole economy. And how can you not look what is happening and where the whole world is heading, And only look at one thing. Last thought, in the US, with the current government and previously with a lot of Republican governments in the particular states there, they started saying that this kind of a wider view is a kind of a way that you introduce like unsellable political ideas. And suddenly, their dynamic was that they started restricting public pension firms, the ones that collect money of, old people, let's say in Texas. They started restricting these companies to be looking at this whole wider picture, just saying you have to look only at financials. So kind of imagine, how can you run a company in a rational way, not looking at the whole ecosystem and at the opportunities that are related to this kind of a transition. It's a bit of a mind-boggling thing, for me. I hope that answers a bit.
I think that it might be not political correct what I'm just going to say.
Yeah.
But we can kind of divide word into the punishment and the award. Yeah, I think that from the Christian culture, we are so about punishment, and I think that it might be related to that. I don't know how it's on the other side about the award, but we discussed it today. I was very surprised because we are trying not to work, we are working with NKI, but we are just meeting also different companies from China, and we had an example when there was a company that was saying that they have 42 patents, and I just spoke with Ken today, and I was wondering why, what drives the innovation in China, and Ken told me that those are the taxes discounts. So this is the award. So I think that we should also maybe think this way, that there is always a award and the punishment, unfortunately, that comes from the culture. This is my opinion. Okay, is there any other question?
Można zadawać po polsku, w razie czego będziemy tłumaczyć.
So, as I promised, I will just go through 10 recommendations that we found in the report mentioned before. So my general opinion on those, which I'm going to read briefly in a second, is the fact that I could actually implement exactly the same recommendation to any other industry, which means that it's not very helpful. Because those are kind of what they're recommending, those are the general trends for the future. And I'm just going to read it, and in a moment where I will feel that we just, three of us need to challenge that, I will ask a question: what do you think about it, and what should be the solution? Embrace the change. This is the recommendation, really. So. Do we want to? I just don't want to laugh at that report, but do we want to add anything to embrace the change, or it all was already said before? We will keep on embracing the change, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Then leverage business intelligence. Okay, so I will add something. That means that we should go into modern technology, just to build future of manufacturing. I just put it some RPA, which is robotic process automation. I know it's since 10 years, and it was a movement which didn't survive. Okay, somehow it survived, but it's not massive, and only the huge companies can afford that. So, okay. AI, obvious, everyone talks about it. So I don't know how it should help us to understand what is the future of manufacturing. And business intelligence. This was the second, I added from myself. Okay, okay. I need to speed up, guys. All right, I will just, innovation. Do we want to add something to innovation? Okay, so I will add it.
We
of course.
agree.
You agree, all right. So the way, the path to innovation, and it's not related only to manufacturing, it's creativity. So I think that we should all focus on being creative. That's why we're here. So I think that creativity and multidisciplinary teams can push us to push the boundaries to make the change. So this would be, and of course from the manufacturing perspective we should add much more to that. Plan strategically. This is my favorite. Like, again, obvious. And what does it mean, plan strategically from the perspective of production? Then we have manage risk, but how? Do we know how we can manage the risk in the manufacturing?
Diversify the locations. That's what I'm trying to build. Build a network. Put more value into the connections. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to disregarding the country-to-country situations. I told friends and colleagues around me is that no matter what happens, I should be very comfortable calling you. I have a situation here. What can you do to help me? So that is, I think that is very direct. That we all are trying to survive. When we are trying to do that, we can stay close to each other, and then that is where we can provide a better value by fighting alone, right? Or compared to fighting alone.
Okay. This is the solution.
Yeah, it's just like
like
everybody is having an issue with, let's say, Tamil, right? Mm-hmm. So by working with you, I can understand better on the market. I don't need to do 10 projects, wasting 9 projects. That is saving the earth too, right? And then I can get a better value out of that. Yeah. So, and at the same time, I think the market can also get a better and safer products, more reliable, and you don't have to waste money buying products that are junk, right? Mm. So I think like I said, we are people. We are smart. So we just need a different approach.
We should use our potential that is around.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. Adapt best practice. What does it mean, best practice? Anyone?
I don't know.
Like we were talking about adaptive designing, even the manufacturing, that we should like design so we will be able to adapt to the situation. But I'm also thinking about inclusion. This is the first time, our first meeting when this wasn't mentioned yet. So I will just bring it now. I don't know why now, but like the main what I was afraid of when we started working together and when we started communicating loud that we are working very closely with Chinese company. Because there are so many people are seeing as a threat to the business, to the local business, that I was thinking how I'm gonna explain that, how I will tell to the small supplier that I'm working with that we are working with a huge manufacturer from China, and then I thought that the best is to always tell the truth, but the other thing is that I'm telling to all those small suppliers that you can eat a part of this cake that was never on your table, actually, because there are some kind of products that we don't even know how to produce here locally. And then bringing the company like NKI to Poland, we can actually engage smaller producers to cooperate with us and to produce the final product. So this is what I was thinking, and the next part is sustainability as an opportunity. And do you really believe that sustainability is a business opportunity, or it's a must?
No. if you ask me, I'm 100%, think that this is true. I mean, this is an opportunity. Of course, it's maybe not an opportunity for the older players that have their, systems ready and doing business as usual for many, many, many years. But for new companies or the ones that are ready to innovate, I think that's a huge opportunity. I mean, look at this. We're living in times of transition. Like whatever, if you're creative, again, if you have the innovation drive, this is like the best times ever, I think. The whole economies are shifting, and plus we have a geopolitical shift also in the world, so that creates a lot of risks, but also a lot of opportunities for,
But this is what we can learn from tech companies and pivot, which is so obvious for tech companies, which is so not obvious for production sites or the brands who produce physical products. And this is what I was actually learning from tech companies, that if something is not working, we just need to sit for a moment and see what's not working and make the change. So I think that in a production, we should also follow this one. I actually believe that, like maybe, again, this is me living in a bubble, because I think that sustainability is a must. And also there are, we have that, like a beautiful slide in our company presentation saying what consumers are saying about sustainability. And like definitely the data and statistic comes from Scandinavia, because we are not even doing them here in Poland. But like 75% of, or maybe even, more than that, are responding that that we are willing to pay more for sustainable products. But I think it's just, we are now a bit more too optimistic. It's still an obligation. It's not what's happening, and I really wish to see the moment that it's a mindset, and this is what's going on. Another one, explore new technologies. We've been there, we discussed it, the new technologies, and then invest in talent, and this is what we discussed again, like that you are the person who always invests in talent. This is how I see you.
I actually want to back off a little bit by asking the broad terms, the definition of being sustainability, because I think everybody is probably not really aligned with what that really means, right? But to me, being sustainable, when we talked earlier, there's only one Earth, so we want to survive. So when we want to survive in Chinese, we have one saying, if there's something that you don't want other people to do to you, you don't want to do that to other people. So you need to think of what the whole ecosystem is, right? So the first thing that I would say is when we established Patronage in Poland, we have visited a lot of Chinese manufacturers who are already here, and the first impression that I have is they brought a lot of workers, and they brought a lot of management from China to come over here to establish what they are used to, what they learn. And no doubt there is an impact on the local area, because all of a sudden you have a couple hundred or 1,000 of Chinese in the area, making the rent more expensive, making everything more expensive. And for me, I have experienced that when the mainland Chinese came over to Hong Kong to buy milk powder, where milk powder was an issue in China, and everybody who has baby cannot buy milk powder in Hong Kong, and everybody was so irritated. So it was my direction. That's no, I'm not trying to. Yes, I'm trying to run everything at the lowest cost, but I'm hoping that I'm establishing a local team in Poland who can understand what we are trying to do. So even when we visited the government or the city mayor, it was to his surprise, I said that, well, you are here to, I said, I'm here to help you out, as well as I'm looking for you to help me out so that we can understand each other better on what I can do to the economy. Not just that what subsidy you can give me, but what can I do to actually make this work better. So by doing that, I think that you need to influence the people around you so that we can be a more of a harmony, I would say, and become more creative to find ways so that we can create better value. Instead of you are thinking that, well, I'm coming over to take over your job. No, I don't come here to take over your job. I'm come here to try to learn what we can do something new together that we can work together for.
This will be the closing statement. So,
So the world, I would say the world is more sustainable only if you survive.
yeah. Like, you know what? This is like the closing one. Like we were visiting Warsaw with Ken on Sunday with a tour guide that was telling a lot about communism, and Ken said, like, made a statement that, like, from the perspective what we are talking about the communism, China is the less communist country in the world from the perspective of business attitude.
Yeah.
But like I just wanted to say that the sentence that you just mentioned, that like about don't do something that you don't want to be done, it's basically the main rule for democracy by Montesquieu, I would say. So
yeah,
I think I think we have much in common, much more than we all think. So I hope that we're gonna build like a better future together. So this is my final statement for tonight. So thank you very much for joining us online and offline. And what I'm just gonna say, definitely we're gonna continue this conversation about future of manufacturing. It's already planned for 11th of June. And I would like to invite you for tomorrow, because we're gonna have, sorry, Friday, all right. So for Friday, we're gonna have an exhibition of an amazing artist, Arkadiusz Szwed, who will have his lecture here at 6:30. And then we will have opportunity to discuss art at Wise Habit. So thank you, Ken. Thank you, Wojciech, for joining us. It was a pleasure, and I didn't have to read all of it. So thank you very much, and I see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.